fist fighting some old woman for a waffle iron earlier today, or however you spent the first part of your Black Friday. But we're here to watch Chopping Mall. My name is Josh. I host a series here at the American Cinematheque called Killer Movies. If you like killer robots, at the end of December, we're teaming up with our friends at Cinematic Void to show Wes Craven's Deadly Friend. They get it. But look, we got a lot of guests here, so why dick around? I will say thank you to the American Cinematheque. Thank you to our projectionist up there. Thank you to the staff. If you're not a member of the Cinematheque, you should consider it. You get discounts. You're supporting a good cause. This place is very cool. Let's bring up, we have a real murderer's row of guests tonight. We've got 3 actors, we've got a writer, we've got the guy who designed the Killbots, although I think he's still sitting down, so he should be getting over here. Bob. All right, let's bring him out. Let's start with Russell Todd. And Tony O Dell with Barbara Crampton. The writer of the film, Steve Mitchell. And as I said, designer of the Killbots, Mr. Todd.
Hi!
Thank you for coming to a 10 o'clock showing.
Yeah!
Happy Black Friday.
Okay. Tony and I are gonna share.
Yes.
Oh yes, we don't quite have the right number of mics, unfortunately. Our guests keep multiplying. Well, Steve, let's start with you. Steve.
Yes. Stepping on stuff, I'm falling on stuff. Okay, yes.
Since I imagine you were on the project before everyone else
Yes, I
here,
was.
can you just give us a little bit of the backstory? How did this come together? It was a Roger Julie Corman
I got a
production.
phone call one night from Jim Wynorski, who was an old friend of mine from back east. I had been living in LA for a couple of years, and he said, Steve, if we can come up with an idea for a movie about a guy chasing teenagers in a shopping mall with a knife, I think we can get a picture made. I go, great. So we went out to a place called Coco's, which may or may not still exist. One in Santa Monica is where we went. We drank a lot of coffee, ate pie, and came up with this idea for a Phantom of the Mall. You know, lots of this, and you know, running and jumping and chasing. And then Jim said to me, what if we do it with killer robots? And I had one of those moments where you just go, what? And so he said, yeah, let's do it with killer robots. Throw that knife guy away. I said, okay. We wrote a sort of a synopsis, bullet point type thing. It was a mess, but it sort of we went from A to Z. Pardon me, gave it to Julie Corman the next day. We had a go picture with no script in 1 week. Because they loved the idea, and they said, yeah, do it. So Jim
It's concept, it's everything.
well, it's Jim. He had seen a movie in the 50s called Gog, which is about robots going berserk in some military facility. He said, let's do that. I said, fine. And we wrote it in about a month. And then after we did, I think, 2 more drafts, Roger Corman said, by the way, about the first draft, well, it's really very low level. Roger has a deeper voice than I do, and I can't do it very well. Anyway, we did some rewrites. They said, okay, and then Jim and I cast it. There's no casting credit on this picture. So we saw everybody. We saw these fabulous folks and a whole bunch of other people. Ben Stiller read for me one day. And
Oh my God, for which part?
For your role, Barbara.
for Nick's part.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And,
He would have been with me.
yes, and he was really dark.
Made it dark? What do you
He
mean?
was very dark. Well, it's like the scene where, I think you get killed and he goes, great, and he's just mourning your loss. And he was really dark. Anyway, he didn't get the part. and I think we had some other people who were well known in the genre. But we got this fantastic cast. I always say, it's on the extras on the Blu-ray, we got like lightning in a bottle with this cast because they had such great chemistry. They were great to work with. My buddy John Treleski, who's not here, is now a very successful TV director. You know, we've been best friends for 40 years, and we just got lucky. We also got lucky in that the robots worked. I remember after we finished the movie, I think I said to Jim, what if the robots were like the shark in Jaws? It didn't work. And he said, oh, we would have been screwed. So everything worked. You know, this movie was sort of kissed by good luck.
I forgot to ask, who here has never seen the movie before?
What?
Excellent.
Oh, that's great.
So we'll avoid spoilers. Let's not talk about who lives and who dies amongst the cast here. But for you three, I mean, to me, I've always loved mall movies, and there's not that many. This is one of the great mall movies, shot at one of the great mall movie malls, the Sherman Oaks Galleria, which for all younger people here is a pale comparison to what it was from, you know, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Terminator 2, a zillion, I feel like every 80s mall movie was shot there. Even before talking about the movie, I'm just curious, like, did you go to that mall? Like, was it weird to be there after hours at this place you actually would go and hang out and shop?
I thought that was,
Yeah.
I think it was really cool to go to this place because I had shopped there all the time. I lived 3 miles from it. And so I knew all the stores, I knew the levels, and then to get cast in this movie and to go in there and, you know, have these AK-47s and crowbars, and I'm destroying them all that I shopped in. It was kind of cool. And we would go in, what time, 6 o'clock at night?
Well,
or-
listen,
Yeah, 6 or 7.
our call time was 6 o'clock on the first day. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I've never seen a call sheet with a 6 p.m. call time. That must mean I'm only in like 1 or 2 scenes at the end of the day, and they're gonna let me go home. Well, little did I know, I got up at like 8 o'clock that morning, do whatever I'm doing. Show up at 6 p.m. and they say, oh, no, you're gonna be working here for 12 hours overnight. I said, overnight? What is that? What are you talking about? I was new to the business, you know, I had done a couple movies. And they said, this is a night shoot. I said, what's a night shoot? The mall is, you know, operational during the day, and we're shooting when the mall is closed.
Yeah.
I was really, really, really tired that first night. And then every subsequent night, I brought a pillow and a blanket, and I would go in the corner and I would just take a nap.
And we would do that from, we'd start shooting at 7 or 8 o'clock
No,
at night.
it's basically we own the mall at 9:01
9:01.
So what time? What did we shoot till 6?
till 8:59.
And it was so weird, leaving
And
in
we
the
had to be
morning,
here.
and people are showing up at the mall to go to work.
Yeah.
And, yeah, my windows were blacked out with foil.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
how are you gonna sleep?
Oh, at home?
Yeah.
I didn't mean a car got broken.
No.
And by the way, the Furniture King, we created that store, and we stored all our gear in there at night. So literally by 8:59, we literally we had to be invisible.
Was that an empty store?
Everything out?
Everything, well, no, the store stayed, but our gear and our lights and our cameras and our dollars.
How many nights were we in there?
20.
20.
We trashed that.
Yeah, and 2 nights down at the Clinton studio.
Pretty good, 20 days is really good for today, to shoot a movie,
Yeah, it's
right?
kind of generous for this.
Like, were you getting, it's just so fascinating to me that, I mean, this was the 80s, like a heyday of malls, one of the most popular malls in LA, I would imagine, and you were blowing things up in the middle of the
So
night.
great.
Were you,
It's
did you ever
like a
get,
kid's dream.
did you ever get in trouble for like leaving a mess?
No, we didn't make, well, we did all that stuff. We left a couple of scorch marks on one of the columns. There was a woman who represented the mall named Pat, who was pissed at Jim the whole time. And Jim said, yeah, we see those scorch marks from the effect from the bullet heads, that's Pat's pole. So, so she has a little memorial to her being, watchful to us. But yeah, it's amazing. We really didn't hurt the mall at all.
And I guess I'm curious, what did you think when somebody actually made a movie called Phantom of the Mall, shot at the same mall?
We went in, we did what we did, we had a great time. There's a great story about Bob.
I was gonna say, because you noted that you and Jim talked about what if this is like Jaws and the robots
Yeah.
don't work. Bob, can you tell us
But
a little bit
there's
about
this is a fate story. I'll set you up. Jim and I used to have lunch at the Hamburger Hamlet in Brentwood almost every day. And we're going over there, we wrote the script at the office, and the office was in Brentwood. And we're going in the front door and Bob's coming out. And Jim, you remember?
Oh, yeah.
So take it from there.
I remember like it was
Yeah,
yesterday.
here, take it.
Yeah, that's how I ended up working on the show. Was I was just finishing lunch at Hamburger Hamlet. And I was on my way out, and Jim and Steve were on the way in. We kind of crossed paths. We knew each other from past,
You knew Jim.
Yeah, I knew Jim. And we were just passing, and the guys, said, "Oh, hi," and before I could get out the door, they turned to me and said, "You want to build a robot?" I was like, "Well, what? What are you talking about?"
And so we dragged him in while we ate lunch. We told him what
Yeah.
the project was.
Yeah, and Jim and Steve basically said, "Yeah, we'd like you to, put together a bid, and the robots are kind of like the robots from GOG." Fortunately, I knew what they were talking about. It's a fairly.
I think I told you, I said the robot should look like if Darth Vader had sex with a Sherman tank. But Bob
Yeah,
came up
so
with a much better design.
In designing the robots, what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a robot, a security robot that would actually, if it was being used in real life, would function properly in those situations. So the key was putting it on treads, giving it a really squat appearance, and making it so that all the angles of the body and the head, if you actually shot bullets at it or hit it, they'd actually bounce, there was an angle to them so they'd bounce off. And the fact that the robots are so squat and so base heavy that you couldn't knock them over. Which ironically today, every once in a while, I'll see a photo of somebody's actual security robots that they're designing these days, that are actually being used in malls and other locations. And I look at them and I laugh going, come on guys, you could knock this thing, literally they're too tall, you could, if you actually came across one, you could whack it in the head and it would fall over and down. Our design was, there was no way to stop this thing. And they would run, we had one fully remote control robot, and we had one that was dragged along with a rope, and then another one that you could kind of push into a scene. So we knew with those three elements that we could do all the shots. So you can see 3 robots in a shot. You can see, whenever you see a single robot in a shot, that's, and actually, moving somewhere, that's the remote control one. And what we do is we switch out the numbers on the side, 1, 2, and 3. So the remote control robot could always play either robot 1, robot 2, robot 3 by just switching out the numbers. And the key was, if we concentrated on one fully remote control robot, that we knew we could make that thing work. And that was the key. It had to work every day, all the time. And here's a little story. Johnny 5 from Short Circuit was being shot and delivered, built at the same time that we were doing the Killbots. So we knew the guys working on Johnny 5, and the guys over at Johnny 5 knew we were doing the Killbots. And they shared a story with us that became very integral to the design of the Killbots, and that is the first Johnny 5 that was delivered on set arrived in the back of a pickup truck. And they had a little ramp going off the back of the pickup truck. And since the Johnny 5 as well as the Killbots were basically using the same remote control circuitry, what happened is that when they turned on the original Johnny 5, it picked up an errant UHF signal somewhere else, and Johnny 5 on its own took off, jumped off the back of the pickup truck and destroyed itself. So we got wind of that story. So what we did was like, we don't want this to happen to Jim and Steve and the rest of the crew. So you'll see, I don't know how visible it is in the actual film, but on the back of the Killbots, there's a big red button. That's a push button. That's the emergency shutdown of the whole system. So if by chance there was a signal, or the robots got the wrong command and took off on their own, you could actually whack the back of the robot in the chest, and the whole system would shut down. So that we learned from Johnny Five.
So wait, I don't know that I had a kill switch.
Yeah. So,
I also didn't know the first Johnny Five committed suicide. But wait, the actors, what was it like working with the Killbots?
Well, I never knew any of what he just.
Me either, I had no idea you had one of his tree.
They were great. I mean, they always worked and.
They seem to, yeah. You know, it's crazy, because you know it's a robot, even though you have to act that it's a killer robot coming at you. And we're shooting these guns.
Yeah, but I actually thought they moved kind of slow.
Kind of what?
Yeah, they kind of moved kind of slow. That's okay. So,
She can be cut out.
But they
you,
were.
but you wouldn't know it from, okay, there's one expression I have in the movie, and for those of you who've seen the movie, there's one time when the robot's coming towards us, and maybe it's when Susie Slater gets her head cut off, I don't know, I don't remember. But I have this one moment with Carrie Emerson where I go, ah! Like that. Look for that moment. I am totally overselling that moment because, I'm gonna tell you, because the robots were moving, have a nice day, slowly, like, why were we scared?
You sped them up a little, right? Aren't they sped up at some point?
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess a couple times it looked like they were sped up. Did you notice that? Even though you've seen it before? No.
Everybody.
But, yeah, I'm like, but I was like, I have to be really scared of these robots.
I
I
believe
think
you.
I was overacting.
His head just blew up.
Acting.
It was fun though.
It was a fun movie.
It was. We had a great time. We laughed a lot.
We laughed.
On a mall
Okay.
and.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I met Kelly Maroney on that movie, and she's one of my best friends today. And, you know, we just really did have a fantastic time. All of us were like very young, in our 20s, and we're having a good time with one another. We all were very friendly with one another, and
Right.
it was
No one
fun.
had attitude. We were happy we were hired.
She wanted to be here today. Well, she was also in Night of the Comet, which I believe
Oh,
was
yeah?
shot at the same mall.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
All awesome 80s mall movies were shot at the Sherman Oaks
We
Gallery.
weren't working, we were curled up somewhere in the mall.
Sleeping,
Yeah.
Did you guys steal anything from the mall?
No, I did my own stunt though, at one point. I was jumping off the couch somewhere, I guess the robot was coming and it was lasering me.
It was exploding.
Yeah, and I jumped off and something happened, like there was a laser or something and a piece of something hit me in my arm, and I still have like a little scar from that. No, something,
We blew up a lot of the pillows and some stuff in the store.
some piece of wood or some piece of glass blew up and hit me as I was running. I'm actually proud of that moment. Yeah. What about you? Did you do any of your own
Kelly and
stuff?
I, we fell through the glass table.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that.
I don't jump. My character jumps off an elevator.
Yep.
But I didn't. I don't remember doing that. And then I throw a crowbar through a window of one of the stores. Did I do that?
Yeah, no, I shot that with you guys.
Okay, I did that.
You know, it says we need some guns or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Don't
it's a-
worry, I got the keys, and then you throw this crowbar and smash this glass.
But I threw it.
You did that.
Oh,
Very
I forgot a lot.
It
And
was
then-
only 40 years ago.
Yeah, and where did we shoot that thing when we were in the air duct? It was a very big air duct.
Oh, yeah, so there's a quick story on the air duct scene. I directed that, because I directed the second unit. And the first unit was way over on the other side of the mall, and our marijuana-induced art director had built the air duct in the furthest corner of the mall. I remember when I got there to see the air duct, I'm going, wait a second, it has 4 sides. And I said to her, I said, how am I gonna shoot? And she goes, oh. And so we took off the sides, so Barbara and Kelly and Carrie are in the air duct. That's just stuff that we shot on a small, tiny piece of air duct set in a far corner of the mall. And by the way, the girls were great that night. They were fantastic. Truth is truth.
Talk a little bit about the cameos too. I'm trying to remember, did you guys get to act with Any of the kind of Corman
Not
legacy
really, like,
cameras? They've
yeah,
kind
at
of
the
been
very
around.
beginning.
Dick Miller, everybody.
Dick Miller, yeah.
Never saw him. Did Dick work with you guys and Paul Bartel?
He
No.
was there, I
Yeah.
remember him being.
I remember seeing Dick Miller there. Yeah, I saw him. That was it.
But we were young at the time, we were like, who's Dick Miller?
Right, exactly.
And, you know, you guys schooled us and said,
Yeah.
well, let me tell you who Dick Miller is, and then, you know,
It's not a Roger Corman production without Dick Miller.
yeah.
I saw Julie Corman one night.
What?
Julie, remember seeing
Yes,
Julie
our
on the
producer,
set?
she'd show
Yeah.
up a couple of nights, it's
Yeah.
about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is everything working? Is everything okay? Fine, I'll see you. I remember walking her to the car, you know, just make sure nobody did anything to it.
Well, it was a Roger Corman, you know, produced movie, but did Julie produce a lot of movies back then? I
She
mean,
produced a few for him, yeah, she was sort of another part of the company. But Julie produced the movie, Roger okayed everything in the movie. Like, if Roger didn't like something, we wrote a scene, if you have the Blu-ray, there's a piece of script in there. A scene where Paul Bartel and Mary Warnock bring a horse to the mall, which they're gonna cut up and make hamburgers out of it. And then the security robot is there and does them in, and Roger saw that and says, oh, I'm not paying for a horse. But everything had to be okay.
And the idea was that Paul and Mary, they're the characters from
They were playing the
Eating
same
Raoul.
character,
Yeah.
Eating Raoul, yeah. That was intentional. We thought we were being very clever. You know, we thought we were being real smart. You know, there's a reference to the thing in there. I think Tony says something about, you know, what if we could read our minds? And that's a line from the original Howard Hawks' The Thing, my favorite movie. Peck and Paws, Sporting Goods, you know, Little House of Pets, Roger's Little Shop of Pets, or whatever it is. You know, we were very young. We thought we were being clever. The audience seems to like it now, which is great. But you know, we made a movie that we wanted to see. I think that was the trick. We all sort of wanted to see this. We weren't just doing it to do it. We wanted to see it.
Yeah.
You know, that was, I think that was the juice, that's the propellant. You need working in a low budget. You might not want to see the movie. If you're just doing it for the money, it's like, yeah, that's so.
And when
And
you're
trust me, the
making,
money stunk.
when you're making something, when you're making any product, I mean, like this, we had no idea that 39 years later, we'd be sitting here with you. You know, it's terrific, and thank you so much for keeping it alive. We so appreciate it.
It used to be a crowd pleaser movie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It was just, you know, it was a job for us that we loved doing, but it was a job, and then you move on to the next one, you know, it's over. And look where we are. I mean, we're here still celebrating it, so it's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it was. I think that's sort of that show. I did not assassinate President Kennedy. Oh, we had a great time. For me, it was like grad school. I don't know how it was for you guys. Bob was the old pro. You've been nominated for an Oscar already, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what was that for?
What, the
The Oscar nomination.
Beetlejuice.
But yeah, there was great camaraderie on that, and we all liked each other, and it was fun, man. I miss the '80s for one reason, that things just happened and not everything was a big deal. Nobody worried about marketing, nobody worried about this and likes and follows and all the stuff of today, which is kind of part of the business. They said, make the movie, here's the budget, have a good time, and luckily the robots work and everything else worked. Let's put the robots there, Bob.
I mean,
Yeah, last thought on the robot, give you a little bit of, another little behind the scenes tidbit that you can watch for when you're watching the film. I know it's gonna ruin a little bit of the magic, but you'll be the in crowd. And that is, originally we were gonna shoot, or at least I was told we were gonna shoot at the Beverly Center.
That's true.
So my crew and I went to the Beverly Center and measured all the doorways and all the hallways and measured the escalator, which at the Beverly Center were this wide. And when we got to the Sherman Oaks Gallery, the escalators were this wide. So there are several scenes where the Killbots have to get from one floor to another using the escalators. So what we had to do is, since the treads were so wide, and in the design of the Killbots, they couldn't go on the escalator, we then took apart one of the Killbots and made a costume out of it. So that the top half of the Killbot, the chest and the head could be worn by one of our crew as a costume, and they could ride up the escalator. You'll see that the way that it's shot and cut, you never see the treads when it's on the escalator. But you'll know what I'm talking about when you actually see the film. So we can chuckle about the width of the escalator. How on the day we had to come up with a solution.
That's amazing.
Well, the cast is learning new
No
things.
idea.
about
Not
that. And I will note the exterior of the mall is still the Beverly
Yes,
Center,
it is the
correct?
exterior, yes.
Yeah,
The
Jim
interior
took the
Sherman has.
camera and drove around the mall one night and stole those. This is what you do when you work for Roger Corman's. You know. That scene with the escalator, that was the second unit shot that I did, and that's what I call smoke and mirrors. Because you see the robot coming up over the horizon of the escalator, and then it seems to drive off. Well, I said to the text, get the robot as close to the escalator as you can, and then on the cut, it'll move forward. And, you know, the whole movie has got lots of this sort of improvisational, cheap stuff. One night, Jim said to me, he said, I need a shot of Kelly running out of the little shop of pets. We can't go into the little shop of pets. And I said, oh, okay. So we had that sign, which we created. And so I said, all right, how am I gonna do that? So I did a pan across, down onto Kelly, who ran into frame, and then she turned and I rack focused to the robot. We were in the store, but it seems like she was running out of the store. The whole scene where these guys are running through the furniture store, that art editor, Leslie Rosenthal, took what was a very short piece of real estate and elongated it through cutting. So it looked like you guys were jumping and running, and it looked like an enormously long store, and it was just all her and the magic of just cut, cut, cut. And no digital, it was all real. Even the lasers and stuff, that's all like cartoon animation, rotoscoping. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do if you just, you know.
We thought those were
put your mind
real.
to it.
Steve, we thought those were real. We did.
That's good.
Maybe to wrap things up with our cast here, 'cause we do have a movie to watch. Again, we don't want to get any spoilers. Maybe just for people to, you know, keep an eye out for and a plot. Do each of you kind of respectively have is there like an image, like a shot from like a favorite scene of yours that you want the audience to kind of be on the lookout for?
I like when I break open the window of the store and go in and start looking for ammunition and guns. And I have a line that's kind of well known. I don't want to say it in case you haven't seen it, but you'll see me say it in the film. That is kind of stuck. But yeah, that was my favorite scene for myself as far as work.
Yeah, and it's about yourself.
I personally like the scene where I'm by myself and I'm entering a hallway and I open the door and I have a gun. I just decide to start flailing the gun before I even look. Yeah, it's just something Ferdy would do, so.
We all would.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like a favorite scene, but I remember it, and every time I see the scene, I go, oh yeah, I'm trying to do this thing. Because a lot of times a director will give you something technical to do, and you have to make it look effortless, and like, it's just there and natural. And Jim said, you need to hold the gas can, so that when the robot, you know, lasers you, then you blow up. And I'm like, but I'm trying to get away from the robot, so why am I holding the can? Barbara, you need to hold that damn can. I'm like, I know, but it feels kind of unnatural. I would just throw that can away and like try to scurry out.
You'd still be alive.
Barbara, you need to hold that can. So I don't know, every time I look at it, I go, do I look natural? I don't know. Maybe look out for that.
Yeah.
Tell me afterwards what you think.
My favorite shot is when the mall was closing, and you see all the doors just closing and making that great sound. And there's one where you see the shadow of the Killbot, and then the door closes and it just all goes to black. that was my film noir shot. I said, why not? Let's, because we could do whatever we wanted to do. So why not? So that's my favorite. People love that shot.
Oh, and to finish this off, my favorite sequences are with the technician who's tracking the Killbots, played by Garrett Graham. Being a big Phantom of the Paradise fan myself, the fact that we had beef. Big thumbs up.
All right.
By the way, you got to close that thing.
That was great. Thank you, Russell, Tony, Barbara, Steve, Bob.